So from the inside of the shoe, everything's lined up. I am just going to go straight through a few times. So as you can see, up against the casing, you really are not going to be able to see that while I'm dancing or teaching or whatever. But I like to that's just my own personal preference. So, also if you have done my suggestion and folded the material, make sure after a few stitches that you are going through both, that the bottom one wasn't pulled down too low, so that you are actually going through both pieces and actually getting that extra stability. So here's where things get a little different. I like to, so I'm not going through the whole shoe. I actually am going to sew through only the lining of the shoe, and I'm going to do what I think is called a whip stitch, if I remember correctly. So I'm going to pick up with my needle, I'm going to lightly pick up the inner lining, and you can kind of tell if you kind of gently go on an angle, you can kind of just pick up the lining of the shoe. It's two pieces. They're two layers through most of the shoe. There's this inner lining, which is more like a cotton, and the outside, that's the satin. So I'm gonna use my needle and just pick up just the lining. If I flip it over right where it is now, you can't see that needle. It's right here, but you can't see it. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna pick up just the lining and then go through both layers of my ribbon. I don't know if you can see it, there we are. It's hard to hold it, and we're gonna pull it all the way straight through. So here it's making a full loop. So I'm just gonna sew from the inside of the shoe. I'm not going back and forth, in and out. I'm gonna do that little whip stitch all the way down to the corner. So again, picking up just the inner lining, going through both layers, straight through, and pull it tight. Do that all the way down. Inner layer through both layers, or both pieces of ribbon, both parts of the ribbon, one piece, pull it tight. If you can see if I can line it up, little stitches are kind of lining up, and they're gonna look maybe a little thicker than they did on the elastic. Okay, so they're gonna look maybe a little thicker, but as I'm going down, you cannot see them through the outside of the shoe. So we're here, we're just gonna keep on going. I'm gonna try to keep this out of my way. Sometimes I'll fold the elastic around the heel just to kind of keep that out of my way. And as before, I like to keep my thumb on the part that I'm sewing just to kind of keep it in place. Hopefully this will stay in frame while I go. So I'm getting almost to the corner. Usually when I get to the corners, just to make sure they're extra tight, I will actually make a knot with one. So this is the same way that we made our knots earlier with the elastic. You can see I've got one side nice and tight all the way along down to the corner. And if I flip it over, you can't see any of that. You can only see the first few that I did through the satin. The rest of those stitches are right here. You can't see them. So what we'll do now is same thing, pick up just the inside, go through that corner, pull it almost all the way through till I have that little loop, and then take my needle, go back through and pull it, and then pull it tight, and now I've made a knot. Now, the whip stitch that we've been doing, I'm gonna do that going all along the bottom. So making sure that I keep my, I don't let my ribbon twist, as you can kind of see like it wants to do here. Make sure I keep it nice and square. So I'm gonna use my thumb here, and I'm just so I get to the other corner, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna make a knot. So inner lining, make sure you're going through the material, and make almost all the way through so you get your little loop, go through it, and pull nice and tight. Now, you could probably guess, but I'm gonna take the same whip stitch all the way up the side. Just finishing my box. It's the same idea that we did with the elastic. We made that square, but I'm gonna do that, and I saved the top for last, but I'm gonna do it from the inside of the shoe. Again, if I flip it over, you can see nothing. You really can't tell where I've been sewing, but already if I pull on that, it's very, very strong. So part of it, all right, so we're back up to the top corner here. I'm gonna go ahead and make this one my knot. I'm gonna go through right there. And still have the top row to do. Now, again, really can't see where I've done that. A couple times I got pretty close to the set and I might have nicked it with my needle, but ultimately you really can't tell. So I am going to, on the top row, I'm gonna go through both layers as we did with the elastic. I'm just gonna go through, in and out. And these stitches, it's kind of hard to tell from the inside, but I'm keeping them up pretty close to this, this seam right here at the top, which is called, this is the drawstring, sits inside of here, so it's the casing for the drawstring. So that's just gonna be essentially invisible when I'm dancing. All right, I'm back to the place where I started. I'm gonna do one more knot. Again, I like to stay on the inside to make my knots. I just think it's easier, but you absolutely can do it not that way. Small circle, pull through. And since this is my last spot, I'm gonna go ahead and do a double knot. So I did one circle, and I could either pull it and do a second one, or I can take through my second circle, and now I've got two knots in one. And that is it. So I'm gonna cut my thread, get that out of the way, try to slide this on and show you if I can stay in frame. So granted, I only have one ribbon on right now, but whenever I tie this, it's twisted. Whenever I tie this, it's gonna set, with the elastic starting at my Achilles and wrapping around, so that on the back side, if I hold it, the back side is all elastic. There's no ribbon setting on my Achilles tendon. So then the other side will wrap around, do the same thing, and then they'll tie right here. And then if I decide I need to trim this, then I can. And then if I do, I'll make sure that I burn the ends.